Hello everyone, I'm back with another video, and today's video is on a movie review on the 1995 film Mortal Kombat. Released in 1995, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, or Paul Anderson, which, yes, I've watched this movie since Sunday. So how does it stand up the test of time? Well, let's go over the pros. Well, let's go over the story. The story basically borrows elements from the second and not from the second and third games, the first and second games. We get all the main characters. From the opening scene, we get this Mortal Kombat, which is the techno syndrome of basically Mortal Kombat. Techno syndrome is very iconic and has only been used a few times. I remember it was in Mortal Kombat 11 in the release trailer or reveal trailer, and I think it's also in Mortal Kombat 2021 in one of the trailers. Anyways, moving that aside, and of course my parents are talking up there. Let's go over. So we get this flashback scene with this random guy and Shang Tsung, the main villain of the first Mortal Kombat game. Shang Tsung beats to death this random person, sucks the soul out of his energy, and says to the camera, "Your brother's soul is mine." That is a very good line. In fact, the actor for Shang Tsung, I don't have my phone with me to pronounce it, does a very good job pronouncing of what Shang Tsung is, and I think he does a very good job. So, I think it's pretty good. Of course, the brother's soul is gone, and we get our first main character, Liu Kang, who wakes up automatically. And we got Johnny Cage. Actually, I think we get the iconic Sonya breaking in some disco party where Kano is hiding in, and also where he's talking to Shang Tsung. I don't know if it's revealed. I've watched a different version of the DVD because it says it's been modified from its theatrical release, I guess. Mortal Kombat, it also has every fight, not every fight, Sonya basically kills the guy, and there we go. That's enough of that. Jax is somewhere there, and Kano escapes. And then move on to Johnny Cage, who is filming a movie and is doing pretty poor at it with his actors. Basically wants to prove that he can actually do good movies and his movies aren't, terrible. I want to see if that would end well. Next would be Mortal Kombat is not for Mortal Kombat. Next would be of course he encounters Shang Tsung, as a different person, because Shang Tsung's ability is to manipulate the player as someone else. He manipulates the player as someone else, and there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. He manipulates someone else as a samurai or as a karate artist, and tells Johnny Cage to join this tournament. During that time, Liu Kang heads off to China because I think he was in New York or Chicago, can't remember. He goes there, meets his fellow ancestors, and then meets with the Thunder God, Raiden, who is my least favorite portrayal in this movie. And I'll get to why. But we move on to, and I'll admit, the humor is pretty good, saying, he got America too much in his mind. Too much television. I feel like that's kind of true, but I don't want to be racist, which I don't know, I'm sorry. Next, he goes and enters a tournament, along with Shang Tsung, along with Kano, which has a pretty cool shot, along with Sonya, and the only one-time appearance of Jax. Everyone enters the tournament. Johnny Cage comes in with his whole lot of bags, which is kind of sad. He has a whole lot of bags, and after that, he asked Liu Kang to, you get the money, you carry the bags. No, takes the money, yeets the bag into the ocean, takes the money. That's kind of sad, and that made me laugh. And then move on, it was pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. Now, moving on, they're in the ship along with they're checking where, Sonya's of course checking where's Kano. They bump into each other a bit, and Sonya is accompanied by Liu Kang and Johnny Cage. Liu Kang and Johnny Cage are there. And after that, we get to meet Shang Tsung, who is still miraculously evil. And then we get basically the two iconic ninjas at that time, Scorpion, and my favorite, Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero, they were both, but then before that, of course, Sub-Zero can just freeze anything, so he freezes Sonya's gun, and Scorpion has that little chain dart, which looks horrible in CGI. We then move on to, and then Raiden doesn't approve, knocks both of them back, and that's the end of them. So, where do we move on from there? Raiden tells Shang Tsung that's a bit cheating, and it's not fair for him to attack in such an early time. And of course, Shang Tsung being Shang Tsung lies. And there we go. And then they arrive. Well, before they arrive, of course, I'm manipulating myself and making myself confused. Excuse me. Raiden tells the gang of what's going on. There is a tournament that basically determines who wins. Outworld is basically going to rule the 10th tournament. They have won 9 already. So once they rule the 10th tournament, they'll get the control of Earth. And however, if the fighters can stop that, they'll basically save the world. So, how's that? After that, we get, of course, the first fight. We get to meet, and once we go in there, which is in Shang Tsung's Island, Big Boy Island, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. And we also get to meet a tiny bit of Princess Katana. However, she is being guarded by another horrible one, Reptile. Reptile looks horrible just as much as Raiden. And I'll put an image on the screen, and I'll charge my phone real quick so I can read the plot a bit more. It's horrible. He looks horrible. And for why my voice sounds so tired, I ran up the stairs. Anyways, we move on to the first fight with this random monk who is pretty badass. And of course, Liu Kang beats him. Shang Tsung says, "Your soul is mine." Takes his soul with a bit of X-ray, and boom, the random monk is dead. We then move on to Sonya versus Kano. And, oh man, is it slightly brutal, and they have comebacks. I would like to point out that Kano's actor here actually did a pretty good job and kind of shaped what the character is now. Slightly Australian. He's Australian, but has this really redemption something character to him. And he's ready to crack jokes at someone else's death, like Sonya's partner. Of course, Sonya beats Kano with her little handstand grip maneuver, grabs Kano with her legs, puts him down, and one of the worst lines from Kano, "No, Sonya, give me a break, will you?" Sonya says, "Okay." And boom, Kano is dead. His neck got snapped. We then cut to a forest where Johnny Cage is in, where we meet with Scorpion, who has this weird chain dart. And it's not on a rope, or it's not on a chain. No, it's on this metal leash. And this weird thing that Scorpion, of course, says, "Get over here!" And of course, Johnny Cage, being Johnny Cage, basically fools it, basically dodges it, hides behind a tree, of course, It looks like the weird snake thing is about to kill Johnny, but sadly is limited because the leash is stuck on a tree. He goes back for another run. Johnny Cage moves out of the way, and the little chain dart thing is dead. Johnny Cage is then ready to run and then kick Scorpion, but Scorpion, being smart, basically teleports while Johnny Cage uses his shadow kick-like move, and then they teleport into the Netherrealm, which is so cool. And then he starts throwing cheesy lines, but at least Scorpion gets some more time to shine compared to Sub-Zero, who got in 0 time to shine, sadly. And that is the truth. Scorpion gets beaten a lot, but Johnny Cage too. Even by a little thing of this little heel kick that kicks Lyndon Ashby, the actor for Johnny Cage in this movie, and it hit him right between the kidney. Which, damn, that's gotta hurt. That's gotta hurt. Real bad. And then we move on to one of the fights. I think if I just hold on. If you just let me reload because my internet's bad. As we see here, what happens next? We then go ahead and we see Liu Kang is basically going to attack Katana. He's going to attack Katana, but of course, Katana gives him advice for a brief duel. Of course, actually, let me rephrase this. Liu Kang has to fight Katana in a brief duel, but Katana told Liu Kang some advice for his next battle. Liu Kang then fights my favorite character, Sub-Zero, who sadly is killed. The fight is so slow, and we don't even get some cool moves. Just water, and then the ice goes through Sub-Zero, and Sub-Zero is frozen, and he's dead. Why? I want more of Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is my favorite character out of all the Mortal Kombat characters besides Scorpion. But out of all of them, Sub-Zero is my favorite. So why does he have to do this justice? He doesn't get this much justice. Next, we get Goro. Of course, we get Goro, who is not CGI, but he's actually an animatronic, who's pretty cool. He's fighting, of course, one of the main Mortal Kombat characters I forgot, Arlene, martial artist who fought in London during a tournament. Goro basically beats Arlene to death, and his soul was taken by Shang Tsung. However, of course, Sonya is a little bit scared and worried that she and the others will not win against Goro, but Raiden tells him with confidence and the strength and going over your fear, you will kill Goro. Despite, of course, Cage decides to fight Goro, and Goro is about to attack and even tries to hit Goro, but he does the little nut punch move towards Goro, and that was so cool. He then goes upstairs, fleeing, and Goro follows. Who Johnny Cage says, of course, there's a swear warning. What's a $500 song? That's the best line. Goro and Cage are in a cliff. They're about to fall, and one of them is about to fall or die. Goro basically gets the lower end of the stick and actually slips, trips on something, and is about to die. Johnny Cage says, "This is where you fall," and Goro dies in a pretty unsatisfying way, and Goro versus Johnny Cage was also pretty unsatisfying. Next, after that, After defeating Goro, Shang Tsung takes Sonya Blade and captures her. Liu Kang and Johnny Cage fall while Raiden stays behind because he can't enter there. Where they enter Outworld. Once they enter Outworld, they are basically walking around to go into Shang Tsung's tower, but they feel suspicious. Liu Kang grabs something in the wall, pulls it out, and it's Reptile. Yeets into something, a weird statue, which pulls him and turns him into the iconic Green Ninja. This is definitely one of the best. This is the best fight of the whole movie. It felt so real. Probably because when I was watching videos, apparently when Lyndon Ashby was thrown to a pillar by Reptile's actor, Keith Cook, he broke several of his ribs by smacking into that pillar. But of course, Liu Kang gets the better of Reptile by doing a bicycle kick, kicking him out of the wall, and basically making Reptile into that weird CGI monster with all these weird bugs, which looks disgusting. Of course, after that, Shang Tsung ties Sonya up on some sort of pillars, like hanging, not tied to a chair, but just like tied. You know the game. I don't know, like how they do in Outworld. And then apparently Sonya doesn't want to fight Shang Tsung, and of course Liu Kang, Katana, Liu Kang, and Johnny Cage appear. Also, fun fact that I forgot to mention, Katana mentions that once she was a peaceful person, peaceful girl, until her world was ravaged by Shao Kahn, and Shao Kahn adopted her. Or the Emperor, spoiler alert. And after that, Shang Tsung is defeated. Well, Shang Tsung has to basically fight Liu Kang in another good battle. Of course, Shang Tsung tries to imitate Liu Kang to thinking he's his actual younger brother, but fails. Liu Kang beats him and kicks him to the pit of spikes, which kill him. His souls fly out, and they all thank him, and even Liu Kang's younger brother, thanks him. The world is saved! Everyone goes back to China. Everyone is safe. Raiden appears there, and everyone is finally happily ever after. Or is it? We get this crappy CGI of Shao Kahn. Yes, the main emperor they were talking about breaks out of one of the tombs, of the famous tomb, one of the pillars or towers, I don't know what you call it in China, or breaks out of there and decides, of course, he's going to destroy them. Raiden says, I don't think so. And post with a sequel, and then boom, we are done with Mortal Kombat 1995. So that was the plot. Pretty messy, but at least it's slightly fun. I like how it kind of modifies and tweaks some elements, but, it kind of makes it kind of useless because, well, one, we don't get that much of Jax, and two, I don't, what's the thing with, Shao Kahn? He's just known as Emperor, and they could have mentioned him in a flashback or something. The fight scenes can go from mediocre... Well, let's go over the characters, actually. Well, let's go over the fight scenes. As I said, the fight scenes are mediocre to pretty good. The lowest one I would say is the Goro versus Johnny Cage fight. The scene is good, but the fight is pretty lackluster and pretty bad. Next would be sadly... I was about to say Kano versus Sonya, but no, I'm going to say it's going to go to Sub-Zero versus Liu Kang. I wish we got more of this fight and more justice for Sub-Zero, since Sub-Zero is one of my favorite Mortal Kombat characters, if not not one of my favorite Mortal Kombat characters, my favorite Mortal Kombat character. Yes, I like him more than Scorpion. Don't go ahead and at me. I don't care. Next, I would say would have to go to Kano versus Sonya. I think it was pretty good. Rivalry versus rivalry. But maybe it could have been a lot longer. Next, and also, well, of course, Kano's kick to Sonya's chest, ribs. Oh, that felt painful. I literally screamed at that. I'm not a big fan of Sonya, by the way. And then the next one would be, what's it called? The next scene is going to be the Monk versus Liu Kang. Very fun fight. And of course, it was very unique to see the whole, your soul is mine. There you go, rest in peace the Monk. At least it tried. And it was pretty good. Plus, that Monk sounded like a cat. Ugh. Next is going to Shang Tsung versus Liu Kang. Or Liu Kang versus Shang Tsung. It's very good. And not bad. Could have been a lot longer and could have used more punching and stuff and more special moves, but pretty good. Maybe Shang Tsung could have imitated someone else, but Liu Kang's brother is fine, because that's technically Liu Kang's weakness in that film. Next is Scorpion versus Johnny Cage. It at least shows what Scorpion, it shows how Scorpion is cool. It shows how Scorpion is cool. It gives more fight scenes, that weird kunai, chain dart. And it was pretty cool. However, in my opinion, I think Reptile versus Liu Kang was a very good fight. It felt so real, and it just felt so brutal. The characters are serviceable. I'd say my least favorite character out of all the characters in this movie is Christopher Lambert as Raiden. He's not cacky. He's just he's cackling. He doesn't even fit the mood of being slightly serious. He's just there to crack jokes here and there. The best part of the movie, besides Robin Shou as Liu Kang, is my favorite. Is not my favorite Mortal Kombat character, but my favorite portrayal of Johnny Cage. Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage. He had the humor on it, and he had the humor on him, and it felt perfect. I also think the humor is very good. As for the effects, well, it can go from bad to pretty with Goro. Goro looked kind of meh, but at least he looked pretty cool. Actually, not pretty meh, he looked pretty cool. Another problem but yeah. Sonya was pretty good. Kano was pretty good. Scorpion, Sub-Zero. And I'm going to say this. Their masks look so cool. I wish Mortal Kombat Annihilation could do something like this. Because they kind of look generic. But with here, they kind of went something unique. Scorpion's mask is instead of being yellow like in the games, his mask is silver. Sub-Zero's mask has this winter beard and has this frozen face on him. And Reptile looks like it belongs to a reptile. Pretty unique. Now, what are my main problems besides Raiden, the CGI, and, well, the lack of gore? The lack of gore doesn't really hurt the film. It just kind of makes it that problem. Plus, if you're not a fan it kind of tells a poor story of what it is. It tells a poor story, even though I already told you the story. The story is good, but I'm going to tell you this. I haven't told you before. It does a poor job explaining what it is, because it explains it way too late into the story. They should have explained it in the beginning of the film. So anyways, that was Mortal Kombat. Well, of course, anyways, that was my review on Mortal Kombat 1995. It is a good film. I highly recommend it more than Annihilation. But it isn't, amazing. It has some, not only lack of blood, Christopher Lambert as Raiden, and the effects may not work for the general audience, and it does a poor story of telling of what the tournament is. I wish it could have explained it in the beginning of the film. But, of course, the best parts are, of course, are Johnny Cage, Shang Tsung, definitely. And I would say Techno Syndrome. Best part. Techno Syndrome was really good. I actually really liked It was, I feel like it's the national anthem of Mortal Kombat. So, what would I rate this film out of 10? I would give this film a solid 7.5 out of 10. It's a good film. Yes. It's good.